So many people don't know that I actually experienced a once-in-a-lifetime blessing, I like to call it. Most would deem it a tragedy, where it actually changed the complete perspective of my life and really actually catapulted me to launch the Perry Group. So it was summer of 2017, and I was flying to New York to meet with one of my celebrity clients for an unveiling of a new car. I invited my mom less than 24 hours before I was supposed to leave. So there she is on the flight with me, and I ended up having a seizure and passing out. Never had a seizure before, and there we were. And really, if it wasn't for my mom being on the plane and notifying everybody, including the stewardess and the pilot, I would have passed away on the plane. They actually did an emergency landing, and I ended up uncovering the fact that I had a grapefruit-sized cyst in my right lung. It took up 90% of my lung, and while in altitude, it had expanded, and it literally cut off the flow of the blood to my brain and my airway. And yeah, I literally almost died. I thought that was it. It was over. We knew that I had to get surgery. So at that point, we took a train. It was supposed to be a 3-day train ride to Orange County because I could no longer be in altitude or I would have the same experience. And unfortunately, I didn't make it to Orange County. I ended up in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I had an emergency surgery. I was in Albuquerque for almost 2 months recovering, came back to Orange County. Unfortunately, my lung collapsed. I had another lung surgery that I had to go into. And after that surgery, we thought everything was fine and I was recovering well. Unfortunately, we found out that I had a very rare infection in my lung due to my first surgery. The surgeon put the wrong materials in my lung, and I ended up with a form of tuberculosis in my lung. So here we are. Not only am I going to have maybe 1 to 3 more surgeries, but now, before I could get into another surgery, I had to go to the hospital every day, twice a day for 8 months straight to do really intense IV infusions. So, all in all, this was a very, traumatic experience for most. But for me, it was a huge blessing. It gave me a perspective on life, what was important, like the power of prayer, because my story is really a miracle. In the end, I was not supposed to be only having 3 surgeries. I was supposed to have 6, and they didn't even know if what my health looked like at the end of those 6 surgeries. But it turned out that miraculously, my infection disappeared, even though a week prior to my surgery, I had a massive amount of infection everywhere. So I have some of the top doctors at UCLA that basically had no clue of how this infection just disappeared when a week ago, prior to my surgery, it was all over my CT scan. So for me, my faith played a huge role in that. Sense of not having fear, believing that God could heal me, and really that catapulted me into a lifestyle where my number one dependence was on Jesus. Every part of my journey was difficult, obviously being in a hospital bed for months at a time and really having to kind of just lean on God and nobody else, because those moments of being alone, you really kind of figure out what's important. For example, for 8 months, and many people didn't realize this, for 8 months straight, I would have to get up every morning at 6 a.m., drive to Hoag Hospital, and I would sit there and get a 2-hour IV infusion to try and help attack this infection that I had. I would go to work, I would work all day. Now mind you, it wasn't like they just connected me to an IV and took me off. I had permanent tubes in my back, permanent tubes in my arm that were connected to me at all times. And that was for about 1.5 years that I had that. To get really in detail, I couldn't even shower. My mom had to bathe me. So after I'd go to work, most people would go home, go to dinner, and have a normal life. I would have to go back to Hoag Hospital for another 2-hour IV infusion. And that was my life for 8 months straight, every day, including Sundays. And I don't know, something inside of me, and I totally feel like it was God, gave me the ability and the strength and the power to get through it. And I think for me, my story, I want it to impact someone and give them a sense of strength from within, that you can literally do anything and accomplish anything, honestly, if you really lean on God, but also too, if you have that positive outlook. I think positivity and the way that you view yourself in a positive light and the direction you're going with the trajectory of your life really defines like where you end up. And for me, I wouldn't have ended up where I'm at now and with the company that I own if I was a negative, unhappy, faithless person. So I hope that I can impact at least one person with my story, and I hope that that can be passed on. And that's kind of what I feel my purpose is now with where I'm at in my life.